Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 351 of a year of change and the beginning of our, week 51, but officially our penultimate week. Here's a fancy word for you. We have 2 weeks left. We have this week and next week, and then we are done. That's it. No more. We're going to keep on going afterwards, of course, but we're going to start things off right away with the weigh-in, just to make sure that we get that out of the way, because I want to briefly touch on something, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. But do your weigh-in. So weigh yourself 3 times, take the highest number, and that is your weight for this week. Last week I didn't have much in the way of progress. This week I did my weigh-in. Things are a little bit better, so I feel a little bit better, especially seeing the week that I've had, but we'll address that tomorrow. But once we get that out of the way, it is time to do our last change. I know I was a bit up in the air yesterday as to whether or not it was going to be our last change or not, but this is our final change. Next week, we're just sort of going to cap everything off and everything will be fine. But for this week, the past couple of weeks, we've been adding in vigorous exercise to our schedule. And 2 weeks ago, we picked one day where we were going to take that, and that's going to be our day where we do vigorous exercise. It didn't have to be the entire session. We had to introduce it in there. And then last week, we added a second day where we were going to start getting a little more familiar with our schedule, knowing what we're going to be doing, and finding that good spot in between moderate and death, so that we can find a good vigorous exercise. So of course, natural progression. This week, we're adding in our final day. Now, whether you do 5 days a week or 7 days a week or whatever it is that you do for exercise, we need to have at least 3 days a week where we're doing vigorous exercise. And at this point, you probably have at least 2 that you're doing this for. And whether it's running or swimming or sports or weights or whatever it is that you're doing for your exercise, you're getting a little bit more familiar with it. You're knowing exactly what you need to do to get to that point where it's, okay, I'm sweating and I can't really carry on a conversation, but it's not hurting the next morning. That's really the main thing, is that we shouldn't be getting to a stage where we ache the next day and we can't really do anything. That's if we're really just sort of pushing ourselves super, super hard. But at this stage, we just simply aren't there yet. That's for bodybuilders and marathon runners and stuff like that, and sports swimmers, but sport athletes? There we go, that's the word I'm looking for. Sport people. There we go, that's not for us right now. Right now, we're still just trying to make sure that we're active. And we've discussed this many, many times, but vigorous exercise for me isn't going to be vigorous exercise for you. You might have something that is just unattainable for me at this point that you can do. And I might be doing stuff that you're going to find very, very difficult. So you're going to be able to gauge better than anybody else where that mark is. And we're going to know. I mean, we're very good at lying to ourselves, but we know, we can look at it and honestly say, okay, I should be doing more. Or, that's a little too much because it hurt myself and blew out and some muscle of some sort. Couldn't think of a muscle off the hand. Glutes. There you go. That's your ass muscle, isn't it? I think it is. Gluteus maximus. There we go. That's where it comes from. Which also sounds like a fancy gladiator. Mm-hmm. Anyway, sniffy. Sorry about that. So today we're actually adding in a third day. And as I say, whatever your schedule actually is, we need to have 3 days a week where we're getting that activity in there. And at this stage, we still don't really need to have that full 75 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever it is that you're looking at. I think it's around 75 minutes per week of vigorous activity that we're doing. You're going to get to build up to that eventually. And if you can do it now, then great. Certainly do it now. But it's taken me a very, very long time to get up there. So, of course, in a matter of a month, you're not going to be able to do it. But the main thing is that we have to have this introduced 3 days a week so that we have our schedule set. And the reason for that is that as we start building, and especially once this year is over, we need to be able to know what we can change, when we can change it, where our little increases are going to go. Now, for me, I've been doing, this week, I did my Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Those are my 3 days where I do vigorous exercise. And even now, as far along as I am, I'm still only doing it half the time because I do my 10 and 10 and 10 and 10 and 10 and 10. So half an hour out of that is vigorous exercise, which adds up to around 90 minutes per week, assuming that I do it all the way through, which I did this week. Last week, I should say. So that's my exercise, and then my, the remainder of those Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I'm happy to say, was it? Did I do it Sunday? I don't know. I can't remember if I did it on Sunday. I did it Saturday. I did it yesterday. I know that much. And I did it today, so I'm starting the week off right. I'm going to assume I didn't do it on Sunday. I don't think I did. So 6 days a week. There we go. So the other 3 days, so Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I just did a regular walk on my treadmill. That was it. So now we'll get into sort of off days and short days and rest days and all that stuff next week. That's what we're going to sort of talk about it for our final week. But for this week, it's really just a matter of getting that schedule permanently set. So that you can say, okay, I know that, for example, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, those are my vigorous days. So those are the days that I'm going to be building after this year is up. So although I'm still doing the 10 minutes and 10 minutes, I thought about adding some, like another minute this week, and I'm going to see how that goes. But I do know that, say, 2 months from now, that my Tuesday and my Thursday and my Saturday and Sunday, ideally, are still going to be just walking days. Unless I feel like changing it up and switching my days around or something like that. But I do know that those are the days that I do my regular walking on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But if I don't want to do it on the weekend, I don't really feel all that guilty. Because those aren't my days, my quote-unquote exercise days. But Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 6 months from now, I'm hoping that those will be the days where I actually run a 5K. And at that stage, it would be a little over half an hour of running straight. So my time constraint is going to sort of drop down, and then I can start building up from there. So it might get to a point where I'm actually able to jog for half an hour, and then 35 minutes, and then 40 minutes, sort of build up that way. Because I know at this stage I can run for 10 minutes. Or jog for 10 minutes. I know I can do that much. So now I need to start building up again, because it's been a long time since I've built up. I've been sort of shuffling things around and figuring out, okay, these are the 3 days that I want, and then what am I doing on my off days? But we've got it set, and that's really what this week is for, is to make sure that at the end of it, you have everything set so that we don't really need to change it again. Now, obviously, real life is going to intrude from time to time. You're going to need to change it because of scheduling or work or, family obligations, or someone's going to come live with you. Something's going to happen that you're not going to be able to really follow through every single day. But as long as we're striving as hard as we can to fit into that schedule, and ideally it's something that by now fits in with your life. And it's not something that you're like, well, when I get a chance, I'll be able to do this. It's really important that if we're going to be doing this, we need to do it right. Just like the food and all the food changes that we've done, the same thing with exercise. If you're looking at something and saying, well, I'm going to do it at 6 o'clock every night, from 6 to 6:30, that's my exercise time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And yet you know that you don't get home till about 6:15, and then there's usually dinner that you need to cook, and then there's like house cleaning or homework or school or something that you're doing. If there's stuff that's you're just going to say, I really want to fit it in there, then chances are it's not going to follow through. You're not going to be able to follow through. It's not going to follow through. You're not going to be able to sort of keep up with that. Now, for me, I found that during the day, I simply don't have time to do what I need to do. I mean, at night, I kind of do. But in general, the best time for me to do my exercise is I had to get up early. I just had to wake up 1 hour earlier, so I get up at 5. Ugh, it's horrible. I got to sleep in on the weekend. The one day I was thinking, I'm going to sleep in as late as I want. Yeah, 6:30 I was still awake, which really, really sucks when you're like, I want it to be double digits. But I get up at 5. That's when I do my treadmill. Not immediately. I've got to stay around for 20 minutes or half an hour while I wake up, and then I go, okay, now I can do what I need to do. But hopefully at this stage, you've found something that it fits in with your life. Either you've made the time for it, or you've set aside something that you think, 90% of the time I'm going to be able to make this. It's not going to be something that you're sort of shoving in there as an afterthought. And if you have your evenings free, and normally you're thinking, this is when I like to just sit and watch TV and not do anything, then do your exercise then while you're watching your TV. That's all I do. I couldn't just stand there and do the treadmill thing. And I don't think I could do treadmill with just music going, because I would get bored very quickly. And then I'd start watching the clock. So generally, I'll put on a TV show or a movie or something, and that's what I watch while I'm doing my treadmill. So it sort of keeps me distracted while I'm doing stuff. And sometimes I miss my 10-minute interval and then have to time from there, which throws me off. And then I have trying to do math at 5:30 in the morning is not my strong point. But the main reason, anyway, getting back to what we're trying to do for this week, At the end of this week, we need to have 3 days. Well, I mean, we know what our schedule is now, really. We have that set. We've had it set for a couple of weeks now. It's just being able to introduce that vigorous exercise in there. And you've probably been getting better and better at figuring out, okay, maybe the first week you went, that was a little too much. I was a little sore the next day. I couldn't quite get through what I needed to get through and really overdid it. And then the second time that you tried it, then you're thinking, okay, well, it's a little bit less. So, I mean, it's going to be trial and error. And it may not be something that you're going to be able to finalize this week and say, okay, I know exactly I can run for 8.5 minutes at 12.3 miles an hour, and I need to be wearing these socks while I do it. You know, it's not going to be that precise at this stage. Eventually, it will. It's taken me a long time to get to that stage where I am now, where I know that I can do 10 and 10. But we're constantly going to be tweaking it. You're going to be changing it. You're going to be adapting. And the main reason why we want to do it this way for this week is so that you have a good framework, so that when you do need to adapt, it's very, very easy to shuffle things around. You're not still going, well, I kind of exercise whenever I get the chance. You can say, I know now that, for example, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, those are my 3 days when I can exercise. I have time. I have about an hour to set aside for that. And so now those have been my days that I do my exercise stuff. And now Mondays and Wednesdays, or Mondays and Fridays, or Wednesdays and Fridays, or whatever it is, those are the days that you've started introducing new stuff. So for this week now, it's going to be every day, essentially. If you're doing 3 days a week, and if you're doing more than 3 days, keep your off days, keep your sort of relaxed, just kind of doing something active, your moderate exercise days. But have at least 3 days a week where you're doing vigorous exercise. And again, it doesn't have to be for the entire session. Go until you're going to be able to measure and gauge exactly how much you can do. And although it may not, you may look at it and think, I'm not really doing much of anything. I'm out of breath and I'm sweaty, but I do that when I brush my teeth. So what's the difference? The main reason why we're doing this is because if you're doing that on a regular basis, it does become routine. It becomes part of your schedule. And once you start getting used to that, just like hitting a plateau with your weight, your body gets used to that level of activity, and then you can just sort of bring it up a little bit. And again, I keep going back to the treadmill because it's really the only thing I know. When I first started, I could barely jog for a minute. And then the rest, 59 minutes, was just nope, just going to walk. And I think I started out actually with every 20 minutes and then taking 1 minute to walk or to jog. And even then, I was really pushing it. I had a really, really tough time of it. And it's very easy to look at that and say, well, you're only jogging for a minute. Why bother? Just stay walking. You're not doing yourself any good. The point is that we need a starting point from somewhere. By that logic, you could say, well, why would you even bother walking? You're not doing yourself any good. Well, why are you walking for an hour? It does nothing. Well, why are you walking for half an hour? It's not doing anything. Why do you bother going for a 10-minute walk every day? That's stupid. It doesn't do anything. You've got to start somewhere. So if your starting point is a 10-minute walk, start with a 10-minute walk. Then increase that to 15, and then to 20, and then to half an hour, and then to 45 minutes, and then to an hour, and then start saying, okay, well, 59 minutes, my last minute, I try to jog. And if you don't make it for that first full minute, and I don't think I did my first time, I'm pretty sure I just sort of pissed out before that first minute was up. But it doesn't matter because you're building on it. And as things progress, and it could take another year before you get to that point where you're saying, you know what? You're going to be able to look back and say, I started by just walking for 10 minutes. It did nothing for me. It wasn't beneficial in any way, but the mindset was there. The schedule was set. The routine was sort of anchored in. And that's really the important part of this. The same reason why we started tracking food, but we weren't really counting our calories way back at week 1, because it's just to get into that routine. And I find that that's been very, very helpful in keeping me on track. And even when I have my rough weeks like I did last week, as long as I sort of stay on there, then it still does its job. And thankfully, my weigh-in today, I did make some progress, so we'll talk about that tomorrow, but it's a good feeling to know that, okay, I still stuck with it. But for this week anyway, this is our last change because really at this stage, there's nothing more that we can do. I can't come back and say, okay, well, add in a 4th day of exercise, add in a 5th day, because, we aren't ready for that yet. We aren't ready to just say, well, 7 days a week, I'm going to be going to the gym 2 and 3 hours a day. We simply aren't there. Our main goal for this week is to just sort of finalize everything so that when we start next week or when we get to the end of this week, you'll be able to look at this and say, okay, I'm exercising 3 days a week, and that isn't going to change. If it does change, you'll be able to shuffle your times around and stuff like that. But for the most part, those 3 days, those are our exercise days. And my nose is itchy again. Ugh. Okay, we're fine. those are your 3 days. Those are your exercise days. Those are the days that you can build on. So that if you're just starting out, if you're just starting out now, if you're just starting out now and you're saying, okay, well, I've got my 3 days set. I've been doing moderate exercise. I just go for a regular 15-minute walk. Those are my 3 days. And then on Monday, I do a 15-minute walk, and then I just sort of pick up the pace a little bit. Enough that I get a little bit out of breath, and then once it gets too hard to breathe, then I stop. Once you start building on that, you're going to be able to adapt even more. So that 2 months from now, you're going to be able to add a few things here and there. And then 6 months from now, you're going to be able to add more. It's just that where we now sort of have the groundwork set, then it's much easier to change it the way that we need to. And as long as we can do that, it's going to be much easier for us to stick with it. So for me, I've been, I haven't really added anything in there. Aside from me being sick a few weeks ago, that's like a month ago now. And then I just sort of got complacent. I got stuck in that, all right, well, do it, for those 3 days, and then Thursdays and Fridays it was kind of bad, so I was able to change that. So now it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm still able to keep up with that. And I mean, I'm sort of still, I want to stay active throughout the week anyway, but those are my 3 days that I build on. So a year from now, Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays and Sundays, I may not be doing anything. But Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I know that those are my days. That hopefully a year from now, I'll be running a 5K. That's my goal anyway. I know at some point I need to start doing weights and things like that, because otherwise I'm just going to be all loose skin flopping and flipping everywhere. It's going to be kind of weird looking for people. Because I'm starting to deal with some of that now, but not super, super bad. But I'm looking ahead, I'm going, yeah, it's just going to be weird, because I'm just going to be skin everywhere. And I want to fix that, because otherwise I just look like a piece of fried chicken. Anyway, that's what our goal is for this week, to finalize the schedule, to get it in place so that when we start off on our own at the end of a couple of weeks from now, that sounded weird, but I think grammatically it's all right. When we finally sort of finish everything off and our year is over, we'll be able to continue on, and we're going to have a much better idea as to where to start. And that sounded weird too. That's always seems to be the hardest part is, you can look ahead and say, well, I want to be able to start doing weights, and I want to start doing cardio, and I want to lose weight, and I want to watch what I'm eating. At that point, then you're kind of like, I don't know where to start. And that's really what this year has been, is just sort of giving us a starting point. And even if you haven't made tremendous progress throughout this year, you probably come away with this with a lot more information and a very good idea as to where you can go from here. So that when you finally find that one thing that keeps you on track and that keeps you going, you'll be able to come back to these and say, okay, well, now I can adjust this, I can adjust that. And, these are sort of, it's a nice little guideline for you. So that you can just look ahead and say, I know where things are going to be going for 3, 6, 9, 10, 12 months from now. Oh, I missed up the math. Oh, see, I'm starting to babble, so I probably should end this soon. Anyway, so for this week, add in your 3rd day of vigorous exercise. At this point, this is really our final change, because although we're going to sort of wrap everything up at the, starting next week, for this week, this is our final actual change. We've done, well, I'd like to say 51 changes, but there are some weeks where we didn't have any change. But we've done quite a few changes over the course of the year, primarily on food, either cutting back or changing or adding, adding in the water, all that stuff. And where we're just we've been focusing a little bit more on the exercise portion of it. And it has been accelerated. It's we've all just been thrown into the water with this. But this way, at least when we're done with this, then we have a good baseline. We know where we can start from. And that's the main thing. We'll be able to continue on our own after this, but it's always good to have just someone saying, okay, just point me in the right direction. I can go there on my own, but as long as I know which way I'm walking, then I'll find my own way. So that's the main thing. Anyway, I have no way of actually summing this up in a nice, neat little package. So for right now, I'm just going to say, I'm going to leave this video here. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video.